Good evening, Rabbi Eisenberg. How are you? Long time no see.
It's been ages, actually. It's nice to see you without a mask, because today I got to see you for 2 hours, but it was only with a mask.
I look better with a mask.
I can't even recognize you. I couldn't recognize him, and they went, "Now, can you see me? Oh, it's you. How are you?"
I'm just hoping some people join us. Right, we've got some people there. It was extremely, extremely lovely today, I have to say. I was pleased because the concept was a success. Good evening, Adam Patrick.
Hi, Adam.
Hello.
The first of many hellos for tonight.
It's not the same without Adam. We missed him last week.
Yeah.
No, it was lovely to see that the concept of a drive-through could work.
Yeah.
And it was lovely to see so many people today. And I think that the experience was very good for everybody that organized it, but also everybody that participated in it. I know that, well, I'm not going to speak for you. You can tell me how you found it. Go on.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was amazing. So, it's interesting because you come up with this idea, actually, you came up with the idea, and I wasn't sure how it was going to go. And for the first 10 minutes, it was really, really quiet. Good to see you, Rodney. Thank you for that. For the first 10 minutes, it was really quiet. I was like, oh, this is going to be a really embarrassing turnout. It's going to be like, and then finally one car showed up and we gave them their goodie bag, and it was cute and nice. And then somehow then people started coming one after the other. It just, and for like 2 hours, it didn't stop. It was unbelievable.
No, it was amazing. It was really, really good, and it was a very worthwhile experience for everybody that participated.
Yeah. The other thing that I would say is, which really, also, I mean, we've had here volunteers working quite hard, and the other thing is that they have the amount of people on the WhatsApp chat that are willing to make the deliveries. It's been really heartwarming to see that so many people are actually willing to put themselves out and to just go and deliver for other people that they don't know, just to make their Rosh Hashanah. So our WhatsApp group. Oh, Deborah's got no sound. Does anybody else have? Deborah's got no sound. Does anybody else have sound?
Can everybody else hear us?
Rodney, can you hear us? Maybe if you just feedback, or Chava. Are we okay for sound?
We might be. I was looking forward to a bottle of whiskey. Well, okay. So Rodney brings up a really good point. For those people that weren't there today, maybe we should go through and show that they can hear.
Yes, they can hear. Okay, so okay. I'm sorry.
So I've got here one of the bags that was handed out today, and it was very lovely. On the front here, it's got this little sticker that says big hugs from Shrubs, one community sometimes apart but together in heart. And I think that's really, really nice. But if we look inside, I'm just going to go through the contents so that people know what they've got. So we have this Machzor guide, which has come from the US, hasn't it?
Yeah, from the United States. I'll put this one together especially for this year. I'm actually going to go get myself a copy while you keep going.
Okay, I'm going to keep going while you're gone.
We'll use it to reference.
In there is this lovely Shrubs bookmark. You never knew that your life wasn't complete until you got a Shrubs bookmark, but now you have one. It's got a lovely little quote on there from the ex-chief rabbi, Lord Sachs. The world we build tomorrow is born in the prayers that we say today. And there's a message in there from the youth directors. There is a letter from the rabbi and the rebbitzin. There is a very, very brief letter from Ian Creek. All I can say is it's about 12 paragraphs. You're all very lucky it didn't go onto a CD and have to be read aloud to you as an audio book. In there as well, you've also got the copy of the same thing that we give out every year, but this is really useful to have. It's the Machzor guide, so it gives you the pages of in every version of the Machzor, or the popular versions of the Machzor, so you can find out where we're up to in shul or where you're up to in davening. And new this year, you also have a copy of this wonderful Rosh Hashana Simanim chart, which my kids have had a look at today, and they love it. There's pictures on there. The blessings are on there in Hebrew and English. It really is just a really, really lovely touch. And I've not even got to the good stuff yet. Here we go. A strawberries biscuit. Yeah.
Bring
Come
it
on.
close to show them that it's been actually been printed with the Shrubs logo.
After all these, oh, there you go. There you can see the Shrubs logos. After all these weeks without a kiddish, we're giving you a kiddish in the bag. You're lucky you didn't get a couple of fish balls with it as well. That's all that was missing. You've also got a brownie and some wonderful treats as well. And last but not least, also adorned with the Shrubs logo is a little pot of honey. So that's just a little bit of sweetness. And it all comes together in this bag. Everybody that came today got one, and we will be delivering the rest of them. We've had a small army of volunteers that came together. And
50 to be exact.
Sorry?
50 to be exact.
50 people, yeah.
It's amazing that 50 people within the shul have come forward and are willing to help us with the deliveries. It's just unbelievable.
It is absolutely superb. So it was a wonderful thing to see today, and the comments and the feedback that we're getting from everybody is superb. And we hope that this year is a special Rosh Hashanah, and in many ways, I hope we don't have to go through a similar sort of time again. But on the other hand, there are some really sort of special aspects of all the things that have happened this year that somehow make us feel even more connected than if we were together normally.
Can I add, by the way, there's two things that I would like to add. All right. Can I add over here that we also have a fund for people within the shul, and then we will do this very quietly and discreetly. So if you know of anybody within the shul that is struggling financially, especially now during the time of COVID, please, you can get in touch with either me or with David confidentially, and we'll try to sort something out for you. If you're on the other side of the fence, and I hope you are on the other side of the fence, where Baruch Hashem, you might have some spare money to be able to go ahead in order to be able to give to others. If you want to get in touch with either me or with David, we can give you it's going through a registered charity. So if you wanted to, you can use the registered charity to give some money towards families within the shul, and this will be distributed to them in time for either Rosh Hashanah or Sukkot. We haven't yet worked out if all the money.
And this is part of an initiative that the rabbi's been running for years now, mainly before Yom Tov.
Yes, twice a year.
Yeah.
Twice a year, usually once before Rosh Hashanah and once before Sukkot and once before Pesach.
It's absolutely vital to some people, and it's nice to be able to help where we can.
I will tell you, actually, I think I'll add one more thing over here, and I'll mention two people by name because I think they deserve to be mentioned. Which those two people are Andrew Barkley and Daniel Hamburger. And I once gave a drosha about 5-6 years ago. It's quite some time ago already, maybe 7 years ago already. I gave a drosha about the idea that I wanted to put together this fund. And after davening, the two of them came over to me at Kiddush and said, "Okay, Rabbi, tell us what it is that you need. We'll help you get the money together." And that was the first year that I was able to get some money together for people, and the first year that I was able to give out money. And it was because these two people came forward from the community and said, "Rabbi, we share your dream, we share your vision, and we share your enthusiasm that this has been helping people for the last 7 years." So a big thank you to them. And I think that there are a lot of people within the community that are willing to come forward and to make a positive difference and a positive change for others. And it's really heartwarming to see that the Shrubberies is that kind of community that cares about others.
Yeah. You said it all. Good night. Thank you. Have a good Yom Tov.
We're done.
Okay. So tonight is obviously all about the focus is on davening for once, for a change. But particularly we called it "And Then There Was Six" because we weren't quite sure. Nobody was really sure what was happening last week when the guidelines were again changed, that you can only sort of congregate it, at least in your own home, with six people, a maximum of 6 people.
That's not in Manchester. We're in lockdown, so we're not even allowed to congregate at home with 6 people.
But generally, I'm on a UK basis, mister.
All right.
but also outside of the, one of the things that was not very clear when this was released was whether or not it would apply for religious purposes as well. And I think that the reference that they always give on the news when they're talking about religious services is obviously the most common one, I suppose, is churches. And the guidelines that I read were not entirely clear as to whether or not it said you can only come to worship with six, with a group of six people. That wasn't clear whether you can walk to shul with six other people, whether
there were six in the shul, you had to go home.
You can have six groups of six. How would it all work? And it was really confusing, and obviously everybody had to wait for a bit more guidance. But it looks, at least for now, that services will continue with distancing, and that the plans that have been put in place for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur will continue. But I guess the premise of tonight is that there will be a lot of people, rules or no rules, who will feel less comfortable about coming to shul, and therefore will have to do their Rosh Hashanah davening at home. And Rosh Hashanah davening, in any circumstances, is more lengthy than our average davening. It normally starts earlier and finishes later, just in terms of time. And there's more to say. And it can get a little bit involved. And I suppose even for the most, the most fluent of readers and the most fluent of people who experience following a shul service, can get a little bit confused as to what should be said and what shouldn't be said and how we should work it. And also, bearing in mind that people will be at home, it's not practical that they're going to daven every single word from start to finish. So what are the main things that they should be concentrating on? Now, before I let you speak, Rabbi, and I am going to let you speak because this is your area of expertise and not mine, believe me, I am going to post a link. And in that link, it's a link to a Dropbox file that everybody, I've put it into the comments now, everybody can access. And in that file are some resources that have come from other members, actually. One of them in particular, I'm going to try and show you the files, if you don't mind. I'm just going to share my screen. Let's just have a look where we are. Here we go. This one came in from Rodney. You saw this one, didn't you, Rabbi? Yeah.
Yeah, this is the one that I was sending you right now. I was also trying. This is very, very good. I would send this out to everybody. We're going to be sending this out to people via the shul's website.
So it will be on the shul's website, but it's also available.
Email, the shul email is going to send this out, and I'll probably send this out also on the rabbi's chat.
So it's, as you'll see, it basically concentrates on condensing it, especially for this. For during COVID-19, it's a very, very clear and useful. It's very well printed. It's just, it looks really good. So there's that, and that is
Make
available.
Sure you print it before Yom Tov and don't use your computers on Yom Tov to get to this Machzor, if I could ask that.
That goes without saying. Yes, absolutely. Okay, and that was one of them. The other one that I found really interesting as well was shared by Ben. I'm just going to try and bring that up as well.
The one by Ben Shapiro, you were telling me about.
The one by Ben Shapiro, yeah. Now, this one was principally designed for children, but I have to tell you, it is also an immensely useful resource for adults as well. So it's entitled, "What Are We Praying For?" And it's a resource for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur for youth and children. And it goes through, you can see here on the topics page, it goes through all the things that are important to us in terms of our nearest and dearest. So you've got parents, siblings, grandparents, extended family, friends, school, people that are unwell, every single category that you think should come into prayer. And really, this is an opportunity for people to jot down, I suppose, in advance of Rosh Hashanah. What are the things that and it's beautiful. So it has 3 sections. One is thankfulness, one is improvement, and the other one is prayer. So, for instance, this one about parents. What do I love about my parents? How could I improve my relationship with them? and what do I wish for them for the coming year. And for those of us that prefer personal prayer that has more meaning to us because we make it personal to us, this is an immensely useful resource. So that's in there as well, and it's fantastic for children.
That's amazing.
It's also a great idea for adults. So, Rabbi, over to you.
Okay, so let's go through some of the things. By the way, I will also mention that as great as this companion is, it is a companion to use together with the Machzor, so there's no Machzor in it. If you're going to be looking for the prayers that you're looking for what you should or shouldn't be saying, you will not find it in this book. That doesn't mean this book isn't immensely useful. That's not what it's going to be doing for you. So you will need to come back maybe to that little Machzor that Rodney has. I had one or two people call me up, and I might still make a video with it of things that people should do. This is going to help me as well. But let's go through it. There are a few sections to Rosh Hashana davening. I'm going to talk about Rosh Hashana morning in particular because that's the main service that most people will be going to. Do you want to just, before we start, even you can put in Rob. You want to put Rob Nathan's comment in there quickly so we can.
I'm going to.
That also. So the Tuesday Club will be this week. I'll be there addressing everybody with our Rosh Hashana message. Members who won't be coming to shul will be able to have some kind of interaction as well. Please join us at 2 p.m. So that's in 2 days' time, and that's at the regular Zoom link. I'll also mention for all those who haven't heard it or haven't seen it yet, tomorrow night my wife Miriam is going to be giving a shiur here at the shul, which is also going to be broadcast live via Zoom. It's going to be starting off, it's going to be in the Hilton Suite, so that we're going to have excellent social distancing in place. At the moment, we're not expecting that many people to come live because many people have mentioned that they're not so comfortable with the idea of coming in person. So if you do decide you want to come in person, don't get worried. We're not going to be swamped with people. It is available via Zoom, also on the regular Zoom link. Maybe I'll post that in later. And you can join us from 8 p.m. For that shiur. So that's also just to mention. Now, when it comes to Rosh Hashana davening, a lot of the davening, so we'll have a different Shmona Esrei, we'll have different Amida, both for Shachris and for Musaf. But what makes a lot of the davening different on Rosh Hashana is not so much the actual Amida, but it is the repetition of the Amida. And the things and the extra bits that we say in the repetition of the Amida, which a lot of them will go missing this time around. And that's really where it gets complicated. The question will become, what do I say? Or what do I not say? The issue is, the question will even be if we'll have to maybe spend some time, or we'll have to try to do another one of these, maybe not on a Sunday night, because we might have to spend some time on Yom Kippur as well, because next week Sunday night is Rosh Hashana.
Yep.
Rosh Hashana. The week after Sunday night is already Yom Kippur, so it doesn't really leave you another one for Yom Kippur.
We may have to do a midweek, a Saracen.
We might have to do that midweek Sunday Night Live, or we might have to try to cram it all in here. We'll try one or the other. So let's start with the following. Rosh Hashana, I think, is a little bit less complicated, and the reason Rosh Hashana is not as complicated is that most of the things that you're going to say on Rosh Hashana in the repetition of the Amida will not require a minyan, other than having maybe Kedusha. You have to say, when you say Kedusha during the repetition of the Amida, things like Baruch Hu, things like the laning, you're going to need a minyan for. But other than that, you can do everything. So if you wanted to, wherever you're going to start your davening of Shachris from, whether you start with Brachas, whether you start with Baruch Sha'amar, Ashrei, wherever you are, even by HaMelech, which is already the beginning of Shachris, you make your way through the regular Yom Tov Shachris. It's going to be on the siddur over there. Anyway, do you want to pull that up, by the way? It might make things easier if you can pull that up.
Yeah, I'm going to bring that up one second.
We'll do it together. Go back to that condensed halachic siddur.
I'm on it. Right. Here we go. That's Brachas.
What page we want to be on. Okay. So we want to be on now at the moment.
HaMelech?
Yeah, we're looking at HaMelech. So page 4.
Okay, that's where we are.
4, that's HaMelech. Where are we? HaMelech, this is where you got in Nusach Ashkenaz, Nusach Sfard. That gives you that with Yishtamach. You'll skip out the half Kaddish because the half Kaddish is said only in a situation where you have a minyan, Baruch Hu as well, the congregation, but then you continue with the bracha. On the first day, we will have the Shabbos, Shemona Esrei. So you have over here, you see the first day, you have it, you go through it. And then moving on, that's what you do on the second day. You'll come together. You'll finish off that blessing. You say the 3 blessings of the Shema. Go back slightly, and then just there we go back here. There we go, page 7. So you got the Shema, all 3 paragraphs of the Shema. The blessing after the Shema finishes up Baruch Atah Hashem Ga'al Yisrael towards the bottom over here of page 7. And then is your Amidah V'Shachris. The Amidah V'Shachris will have a few different changes. As you might see over here, for example, you have Zochreinu L'chaim at the end of, is that your, that's mine. So at the end of the first blessing, right before at the end of the first paragraph, Zochreinu L'chaim, then again, Micha Mocha, Kedusha will be skipped, but you see it over here. If you're not reciting word for word with the Chazan, continue with Ata Kadosh. And here we say, here the Ata Kadosh will be slightly different. You don't finish Baruch Atah Hashem Hakel HaKadosh, but you move on to V'chein Tein Pachtacha. There are different additions that are said over here. And then you finish off Baruch Atah Hashem HaMelech HaKadosh. That is how you'd finish off. Anytime you say instead of Hakel HaKadosh, the entire 10 days of penitence, you'd say HaMelech HaKadosh instead. That's very important. Then we move on with Ata V'chatanu and Yalav Yava as we do normally. And this, because it's Shachris, you move on from there straight into praying for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to bring his kingship back on the land of Israel, on the land of Israel, and on the entire world. Finishing off Melech HaKol Haaretz Mekadosh HaShabbos V'Yisrael V'Azmanim. And then you move on to Ritzei, keep going down. The last 3 blessings of the Shemona Esrei, finishing off the last 3 blessings of the Shemona Esrei, and then Baruch Atah Hashem HaMavarech Hasam Yisrael B'Hashama Osa Shalom, depending on what your minhag is, and that would get you to the end of the Shemona Esrei of Shachris. Now that will be the silent one. Now if you look further down, he gives you the Chazan's repetition. You're not going to be doing the Chazan's repetition, but there will be parts that people will say. For example, people want to still say 1 or 2 of the piyutim, want to say 1 or 2 of the additional bits within the within the repetition. So some say, for example, that one you won't be able to open up the ark, but you have one over here that you'll add in, the one in gold over here, and that one in gold as well if you wanted to, and then Kedusha you'd have to skip out, and that will be it. That will be it for the Shemona Esrei. You can go all the way to the end of that, David. Keep going, keep scrolling. Avinu Malkeinu you can say at home. However, you won't say Avinu Malkeinu this year on the first day, because the first day is Shabbos. You will only say Avinu Malkeinu on the second day. Okay, we finish with that. This is, by the way, so again, full Kaddish you won't say. Then you have the Psalm of the day you'll say, and the David Hashem you'll also say. Then obviously the Mourner's Kaddish gets skipped out. The reading of the Torah we skip out. We can skip that whole thing out if you're davening at home because you won't be reading the Torah. And now you make your way all the way. Now comes the question of blowing of the shofar. So here's a very important conversation to be had. We as the shul and many other people will be having shofar blowing, standalone shofar blowing for people. So if you want to, we will be having shofar blowing out in the car park at 12 p.m. on the second day, which is Sunday. If you don't feel comfortable coming into shul but would still like to hear shofar blowing, we will have a socially distanced. So there'll be areas. Everybody will have to stand in their area. You'll have to sign up beforehand. And we will have a shofar blowing outside in the car park, hopefully. And what we're going to do is we're going to be blowing there 30 blasts of the shofar. And anybody who wants to come and hear the blowing of the shofar can do so by coming to the shul and hearing that. Barring that, if you don't do that, there's also Lubavitch. Let me see if I can find it here now. I'll give you the David. I'll give you the link that they've sent out, or the picture sent out. Let me just find it because there's a whole group over here. That's the other phone. Shofar support. Yeah. So you can call either. Let me just put that. I'll write it in the private chat, and then you please, if you could put that.
I'll put it into the comments. Yeah, no problem.
Okay. It's either this, or you'll need to call.
Okay. Come up on the screen.
Right. So this is it, www.shofar.support. This is Chabad Lubavitch, and they will be working together with a lot of different people who have volunteered. And if you need support with somebody coming to blow shofar, and we've had people in shul that have come forward and said, yes, I would like somebody to come to our house to blow shofar. Well, you can either come to the shul. We have a few volunteers that are willing to do that. Alternatively, you go either onto the website at www.shofar.support, or you can you can call the telephone number 792-6335 extension 8. And when you dial them there at extension 8, you can then ask them to help you with the shofar blowing and tell them where you live. If you can try to bring people together, if you're saying so to say, what Shrub's planning on doing for Brookcourt, or should we contact Chabad? We weren't planning on doing any specific area. I think the plans were going to be according to what people were going to ask us for. So whatever people ask us for, we will do. We weren't sort of being proactive in calling people, because I think sometimes people feel that's slamming down the throats.
It sounds like Brook Court is basically a Shrubs commune. I think there's enough people in there to get a minyan on an average day, right?
You might be able to.
How many Shrubites are there? There's quite a few.
I know that we have Doreen and David Hood there, but I'm not sure who else from the shuls there at the moment. We had a few in Broadfield, which was across the road from Shomer Hadass. There we had a whole bunch of people there as well.
Well, listen, we've had a lot of volunteers as well, as regards offering their services for Tekiah Shofar as well.
We did have that. So I think what we need to say is, if anybody wants to, instead of us making the proactive phone calls, what we're going to do is we're going to say to people, listen, if please come forward and ask us, and we will arrange for somebody to come. It's too difficult for us to try and guess who needs or who doesn't need, or to make strategic places. Rather, we're just going to have to wait for people to get in touch with us, and we will try to get in touch with them. And send them somebody to be able to blow shofar for them. So we'll have to see, Sharon, what we're going to do. There might also be, we have not discussed this fully yet, but there might also be some kind of children's
comment on the screen. Also have a plan for family shofar blowing outside the rabbi's house on the second day for children who aren't able to come to shul this year. Details will follow this week.
Okay, so I've had this. I need to speak to Rich about this also, because I had a conversation with my wife about it, and she just wasn't sure if she feels comfortable with me blowing shofar that many times outside our house and annoying our neighbors. So the question will be, maybe if we can try to do it in the shul or something, in the shul car park, and then that would sort of. Yeah. Again, we have to see if that works with health and safety, etc. So it's going to, but it's a discussion in progress. So hopefully we will be able to fulfill as many requests as possible to allow people to hear shofar. But at the moment, it's still a work in progress. Hopefully that this week we'll get all that done.
So to be so the actual minimum requirement is 30 notes. Is that right?
Yes, 30 notes. That's going to be 3 times Tekiah Shvarim Trua Tekiah, 3 times Tekiah Shvarim Tekiah, and 3 times Tekiah Trua Tekiah. If you go back to the Machzor actually that we had. Yep.
There we go.
So what page we're on? Here we are. You'll see it. Even you have your 2 brachas to be made. They can be made by men and by women. Sfardim don't make the bracha, but any Ashkenazim, men or women, can make the bracha on the shofar. And then these are your notes. It's actually interesting that he put it that way. It should really be Tekiah Shvarim Trua Tekiah 3 times, and Tekiah Shvarim Tekiah 3 times, and Tekiah Trua Tekiah 3 times. And he's put it in a different order.
I think you either go down the columns or across, right?
I think but you're supposed to be going down the columns, really. That's the way it's normally done. It doesn't matter so much, but that's the way it's normally done. And then when you finish that, you have the verses will only be said in the community. You got Ashrei, you're not going to be putting back the Sefer Torah. Half Kaddish, you're not going to be saying at home either. And then we get to the Amidah and the Musaf Amidah. So here you got the Musaf Amidah. You're going to be working through it the way so just work with the yellow. You can skip that out if you're at home, and then make your way through it. That's the whole Musaf Amidah. And if you get stop over here. So now what we're going to have is move back slightly. So what we have when it comes to the Amidah of Musaf is So Deborah Fraser just said that they have somebody blowing shofar in their block. That's is it Woodcliff Lodge, if I remember correctly. And therefore, if somebody would like to hear. Anyone can attend, please call for details. So there you go. So if you're living on that area, Sedgey Park Road, that's a great place to come, and you can hear blowing of the shofar there. I'm sure there'll be lots of roads where there'll be people blowing shofar. I will be blowing shofar around the corner from me also. One of my friends has asked that I blow for his in-laws, so I'll be going there on the first day at 1:00. Again, as we said, we do have the shofar blowing at 12 o'clock in our car park. We have 3 minyanim, so you have ample opportunity also inside shul, as well as if you stood outside shul, you could probably hear the shofar blowing there as well. Okay, so now we get to the, David, could you go to that little plus over there and make it slightly bigger? There's the...
yeah.
Excellent.
Are we good?
Great. That's much better. Thank you. Okay, so what we have normally on every... then Rodney's hoping to blow from his doorstep as well, and that is in Wells Avenue. Rodney, could you put in... Deborah and Rodney, do you mind just putting in a time, please, so that people can know what time... Rodney says that's at 11 a.m. So if you want to hear shofar blowing from Rodney's doorstep at Wells Avenue, it's around the corner from you. That's at 11 a.m. Please make your way to Rodney's. Deborah, if you could put into the comments as well what time you think somebody's going to be blowing it at your block, please, if you could put that in.
Presswich isn't going to know what hit it this year, right?
There'll be lots of people saying, what's that? What's that noise? The only thing that's worse than that is I remember that somebody who lives right behind Aldi told me that his wife and her siblings make all the fried fish before Pesach out in the garden. And I just wonder if everybody walking into Aldi is thinking to themselves, like, what is going on here in Prestwich today? But so be it. Right, so it'll be sometime in the afternoon. When we find out, I think we'll also try to maybe compile a list and to send out a list of people.
Yeah, we will do, yeah.
These are the areas you can go to hear shofar blowing. Thank you, Rodney. That's a pretty good pun, actually. And then you can put that one up.
Yay!
I think that deserves. That's not bad. That's not bad. Yeah. Okay. So then when we have the normal things of Musaf, we speak about the fact that we can't bring the karbonos anymore, and then we read out the karbonos of Shabbos on the first day, and on the second day also of Yom Kippur, of Rosh Hashanah. And then we come to Aleinu L'Shabeach. This is already quite a central part. There's 3 central blessings in the Shemona Esrei. Excellent, thank you. The 3 central blessings in the Shemona Esrei of Rosh Hashanah, and they are known as Malchios, Zichronos, and Shofros. Malchios means kingship, Zichronos means remembrances, and Shofros means the blowing of the shofar. And you'll see over here as an introduction, we say Aleinu L'Shabeach La'adon HaKol. We praise God for giving us the opportunity. They have not made us like the rest of the nations and have given us the ability to pray to Him and to have this special connection with Him. And we pray, the Al Kain, which is the next paragraph, says we pray that you will get rid of all of the false idols, ideologies, etc. throughout the world, and everybody will believe only in you, etc., etc. And then we finish off, Kakatuv b'Toratecha, as is written in the Torah, which is the next paragraph. Hashem Yimach Le'olam Va'ed. And now we'll have 3 verses. You have 3 verses from the Torah. God will be king forever. And then it says, Lohibit Avim Yaakov L'Ra'am Yisrael. He didn't see any negative or bad in Israel. Hashem L'Kav Imo. God will be with them. U'shruas Mechban, the blowing of a shofar of a king will be with him. As in, you can see each one of these verses discusses the kingship of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And in the next paragraph, it gives you 3 verses from the Kesubim, from the writings. And any of you will see the word Venema over here. If you remember from Ian, Venema. If you're going to say Venema at home, make sure your spouse doesn't get annoyed with it.
It's the only place you can sing it this year at home, right?
At home. Yeah, well, no, you can sing it quietly as long as you hum it under your breath. Yeah, but Ian said, I'm sure there will be a competition going on to see how many times you can blow a shofar. Okay. Chances are also, by the way, that Ian Creek is going to win that competition in our shul.
I think he's up for that bet.
I think that one was actually about the Venema, but I think he's up for the bet as well. And so lastly, that we move on now to the prophets. And then he finishes off, that's that 3rd paragraph. Yeah. And then we finish off with Sarasa Kosev Lemar. And in the Torah it says, so we have 10 verses. 3 from the Torah, 3 from the writings, 3 from the Navi, and then actually it's actually the Torah verse, and you finish off the bracha as it says that we said before, Melech HaKol Ha'aretz Mekadosh Yisrael or Hashabbos V'Yisrael V'Yom HaZikaron, and then if you were in shul, you would hear the following shofar blasts, and Laura, we will be missing David and Michael very desperately on the bima, calling out the sounds, because it's one of the things that I always look forward to is Michael calling and David joining him up on the bima. We've always had one of my favorite things is Aresha Sefasenu to the drumming of David. He gives that Aresha Sefasenu a much.
Nobody has got a better sense of beat and rhythm than
He's
David.
got a great sense of rhythm. Really, amazing sense of rhythm. So it really, it always brings a smile to my face when we stand there doing that. So then we move on from that to the next one, which is Ata Zocher. Ata Zocher is the first one about the fact that God remembers everything that people do over the year. Nothing is hidden from him, and then he will remember. It's interesting because here also it says somebody asked me on Shabbos whether Rosh Hashana is a day of private judgment or a day of public judgment. So here we speak about the fact that God remembers everybody, but then halfway through the paragraph it also says Vala Medinas Boya Omer, about the nations it will be said, Ezel Acher ve'Ezel Shalom, which one is going to be for peace and which one's going to have fights, wars, Ezel Ara ve'Ezel Sava, which one's going to have plenty and which one's going to have famine. So we are discussing very, very important things, and we're praying for very, very important things. And we finish off that God remembered Noach at the time of the Mabul, and he brought him out, and therefore we write by Kakosu B'Sar. Again, we get to the 3 verses in the Torah. Then Udirei Kachakosov Lemar, which is the 3 verses in the writings. The 3 verses in the prophets. And lastly, we finish off and then in the end we say one more verse, and then we finish off this Bracha Zocha Habris, which finishes, and we get, if you're in shul again, you'll hear 10 more blasts of the shofar as they are written over there. Then we move on to shofaros. We speak about the fact that the shofar is being blown, or the shofar is blown at the time that God showed himself at Mount Sinai, and we bring different verses. We have 3 verses from the Torah, 3 verses from the writings, 3 verses from the prophets. Again, similar as we've had in the other 2 cases. And then you finish off the bracha over there again. That gets you to the end of the 3 blessings. Those are the 3 special blessings that you have, so that in total you'll have really 9 blessings in the Shemana Esrei of Rosh Hashanah, which normally on a Shemana Esrei on a Yom Tov you would only have 7. Okay, moving down. Here's your Tkir Shram Trut Tkir. And then you say Ritzei, Modim, finish off over there, Sim Shalom, and then, moving to the next page. You move to the next page, finishing the Shemana Esrei. And here comes, I think it's a missed an A over there, but brevity is encouraged. The note to the Chazan. In an age of COVID, to the extent possible, brevity is encouraged.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. Sorry, these things stick out to you. So this is going to be the repetition of the Midah. Yeah, we do the repetition of the Midah, but the one thing that becomes very important in the repetition of the Midah, keep going.
So hang on. So people that are davening at home, when they come to the repetition of the Amidah,
they're not going to be repeating the Amidah. They just say 1 or 2 different paragraphs, specifically the one that's coming up now on page 33, on the Sana Tokef.
Now this is one of the centerpieces, isn't it?
It's really a centerpiece. It's become, and it's interesting to think it's not been in the liturgy it's been in for hundreds of years, but it's based on the story of Rabbi Amnon of Mainz. Anybody who has a Machzor will have seen it there before. I wonder if they bring it in here because it's a pretty intense. Probably not. On the Sana Tokef. No, it doesn't really give you the story. But the story is quite an intense one. There was Rabbi Amnon, who was a rabbi in the German city of Mainz, and he was friendly with the main bishop or the main priest over there in the city. And the priest of the city kept on saying to him, "Well, why don't you convert to Christianity? Why don't you convert to Christianity?" And Rabbi Amnon of Mainz obviously said to him, "No, thank you." Right. So he said that. He said, no, thank you. No, thank you. And at one point or another, this rabbi, this priest was driving him so mad that he said to the fellow, "Okay, give me a few days and I'll think about it." And as soon as he went home, this Rabbi Amnon had terrible charota. He had terrible regret for what he had done, for even making it sound like he ever considered converting to Christianity, because he had no intention whatsoever to convert to Christianity. He just wanted the guy off his back because he kept on asking the questions. So just let me think about it.
Playing for time.
Playing for time. So that a few days later, when the priest asked him to come before him and wants to have an answer, Rabbi Amnon refused to go to him. He says, "No, I'm not coming." And then finally, they schlepped him with the guards. They brought him in anyway. They said there was no choice. You don't have a choice. You must make it in. You must come and join us. And so he comes there and he says to the priest, I have an idea of one of the punishments you can give me. You can cut off my tongue for having said something so terrible. And remember, these stories happen in the Middle Ages, so the stories are slightly more intense and more gruesome in those days. And he said, "No, I was very upset with you for not coming." And so he took off his hands and his feet. Bearing in mind, obviously, that in the olden days, they didn't do this with anesthetic. This was not exactly something that was very painless. It was not, and he sent Rabbi Amnon home basically to die. And Rabbi Amnon was, before Rosh Hashana, Rabbi Amnon asked to be brought into the shul on Rosh Hashana. And on Rosh Hashana that year in Mainz, he said over this prayer, we will say over the greatness and the strength of how holy this day is. It is tremendously fearful. It is awesome. Your kingship will be raised up. Your seat will be established with chesed. You're sitting it, and we know you're the dayan, you're the judge, you are the witness, you're everything, and you count and you sign, etc., etc. You go through everything. It's a very, very scary prayer. It might be worthwhile, if you can find it in the English, to read through in the English what this prayer really means. And this is what he said there in the shul, after which he died. Again, as I said, this is not the kind of story you'd hear in the 20th century.
But you know what? When you talk about a man that's just had all his limbs removed and every right to be angry at everything in life,
yes,
and to compose himself, to compose this kind of
great people, the great people of our, And so in Amos, he said it only once there, and obviously everybody was very, very moved by it. But then in the dream, he came to one of his greatest disciples and he said, "Look, I know I said it only as a one-off, but I want to teach you this prayer so that you can write it down." And he wrote it down. One of his Talmidim then wrote it down, and it became part of, if you think, people ask you, one of the centerpieces of Rosh Hashana Yom Kippur, everybody says Nasana Tokef.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because of the feeling that is just put into it. It's very, very, it sort of has everything in it. The greatness of God, the greatness of the day, the scary nature of Rosh Hashana Yikasevun, Yom Tzom Kippur Yachasevun. Rosh Hashana Yikasevun. Again, this one's for you, Ian. Yeah. On Rosh Hashana it gets written, and on Yom Kippur it gets signed. Kama Yavron, Kama Yibarein, how many going to pass and how many going to be created? Mi Yichya, who will live, or Mi Yomos, and who will pass away. Mi Bekitzu, who in its time, Mi Lo Bekitzu, none in its time. Mi B'mayim, who with water, Mi Ba'esh, who with fire, Mi B'cherev, who with sword, Mi B'chaya, with a wild animal. You go through it, it is quite scary. And I think especially in a year of Corona, going through this prayer and thinking to yourself, Mi Bekitzu, Mi Lo Bekitzu. We know some people, there were some very strange, I think strange is a weird way of putting it, but there were some very strange survivors and vice versa, people that passed away from Corona. There were some people that were young whom you expected to make it through Corona. Okay, maybe it'll have an effect on them, and they didn't make it. And then there were people that told me they had 90-year-old parents who got Corona, and everybody said, okay, this is it. They're 90 years old, they got Corona, and they survived. And as Deborah says over here, when we speak about a modern plague, this is it. And the fact that that God has the power to be able to wreak such havoc on the world, to change the world around, to turn the world upside down with something that is invisible
so quickly.
So quickly. From if you in the beginning of March to the end of March, the difference in the world is just staggering. What people then said, they were even surprised because people said the chances of rebuilding the ozone layer are very, very slim because we just have so many gases coming out. And then they said in those 3 months, the amount of regeneration that was possible in the air, because The cars weren't driving, factories weren't doing all this carbon dioxide that's being thrown out of all of our plummeting out of all of our cars and everything stopped. And nobody ever thought this thing would stop. I mean, how are you ever going to stop this machine? So people say, yeah, in 20 years' time, we'll have electronic vehicles and everybody will stop driving on petrol. But this was, I mean, it was just.
It was just that in itself is almost like witnessing an open miracle, really, because unfortunately, you had all the ingredients to make that happen. And it's interesting. It's not just the people that Corona has an acute effect if you catch the disease, but it's also had a knock-on effect to our health services and everything else. So there are people
mental health has gone crazy with
this. And there are people on waiting lists. Cancer patients that are on waiting lists that can't get
they can't get seen, and there are. I think people say the fallout from this is going to be terrible, and I think that people say that the collateral damage from Corona might be a lot worse than the actual damage that Corona is going to create, sadly. I mean, the damage Corona created is terrible. 40,000 people, well over 40,000 people in this country have died, and hundreds of thousands around the world. And yet, but there are people that are saying that all these people that are not going to get their cancer treatment in time, who knows what will happen to them. And all those people that are struggling with their mental health and have no one to go to and no one to help them. By the way, I think this is a good point to mention JAM with an H at the end.
Yes.
Mental health. Kate mentioned it again to us today, and it's very important. What was she saying? She said that they are free. Do you have the thing with you? Did she give you
I don't have the number with. If Kate's listening, she can post it again. But if not, I'll make it available to everybody later. But one thing she did say, which was really interesting, there are a lot of services out there, counselling services and so on, that have massive waiting lists that people can't get onto. At the moment, Jewish Action for Mental Health has no waiting list at all. So if you apply and if you're in need, you will get seen very quickly. Virtually,
and they have obviously they have trained professionals that are going to be dealing with you. They don't just have somebody, somebody who's taken 2-hour course with somebody on a mental health and is sitting on the phone going, It's and she spoke to me today about finding more male counselors within the community as well. If anybody knows of any male counselors that would be willing to give their time and will be willing to help out with this, it would be wonderful to be able to provide this to our community. And again, maybe we'll Google it on the side and see if you can find Jewish Action for Mental Health. Or you can probably find it on Facebook if you looked.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll keep talking. Maybe if you search for that in the background of somebody.
I'll do that. You keep talking. Do you want me to bring the Machzor up again, or?
Let's go back to. I'll go back to the Machzor while you search for that. But I think I would just keep on talking about that. So that is very, very important. The fallout in mental health and the fact that there are people that couldn't. Oh, very good. And Clive will come back to your neshama as well in a minute. Let me finish with the Jewish Action Mental Health, and we'll come back to a Clive mention that neshama as well. So the fact that people cannot access these services and now can get volunteers to give them help. People are feeling alone. People are feeling helpless. People are feeling scared. People are feeling anxious, and it's very, very difficult. Yeah. So Salford NHS has a 1-month waiting list. So if you're in Salford, that's great. If Bury NHS is much longer, if you live in Bury or your GP is in Bury, you might have to wait that much longer. So here you go. David's now put up the for mental health. You have over here Jewish Action for Mental Health. Clive also mentions, which was mentioned before, there's another organization, also a very, very good organization within the community called Neshama. It provides volunteer befrienders to help people suffering from mental health. And again, it's really important to note, especially in a time like this, that mental health struggles are nothing to be embarrassed of. You don't have to feel stupid about what's going on. I feel so silly that I feel that, or I feel that, I should get my act together, really, my grandparents went through so much more. Why should I have to speak to somebody about my mental health? That's not the way we see it. And that's not the way these organizations see it. And that's not the way you should see it either. And if you feel that you could benefit from somebody, from talking to somebody, and just, even as a one-off, even to get one session, to be able to clear your mind, to be able to clear your head and your feelings. And life can sometimes be overwhelming, and to give you the chance to be able to do that and to not feel that pain, to feel that sadness and to feel sort of trapped by those feelings, please, please, if we can ask you, if you do one thing for yourself this year, it is either clicking on the links for Neshama or clicking on the link for Jewish Action for Mental Health. There are people out there that want to help you, and there's help easily available, and the help can be, it's not a big deal, and you're not crazy for doing it. Please avail yourself of it, because it's a really, really special thing. It's a really important thing. Okay, now that we did a plug for that.
Okay.
But that's all part of the plague. But you know what I mean? Part of the plague, by the way, there are two parts to a plague. One part of the plague is the physical, but on top of the physical elements of the plague, the psychological and the mental part of the plague is just as difficult.
Yeah, and economic as well.
Pardon?
Economic effects as well.
The economic effect has been huge. It's been massive. You know, people that spent 30, 40 years building up their businesses, who had a very nice livelihood, in a month could have had the entire thing, that entire rug swept out from underneath them. Finished. End of story. No more business. It's very, very sad that people who have, to be, after all that, to be left with nothing. So it is very, very sad. I know that after the Second World War, again, there was a similar, that part of the Second World War, the scars that were left behind of the Second World War, for many people, were much more in the mental way than in the physical way. Yes, people had tattoos that they had to live with, and some people had certain injuries they live with, but many people live with nightmares for the rest of their lives. You know, waking up every night screaming, or waking up once every few nights screaming because of the terrible things that they had gone through. My wife told me about her grandmother that many times had nightmares about things like that because she went through Auschwitz. So this is part of the plague. So when we read about in Nisan HaTokef, the scary nature of what Rosh Hashanah is, and I think anybody who needs any reminder of how scary Rosh Hashanah is, just needs to think about what happened in 2020 to realize how scary Rosh Hashanah can be. Because this idea of a plague and this corona is not something that suddenly, at least in Jewish thought, it's not something thought up suddenly in the middle of March, but something that was decreed upon the world. The entire world was decreed upon it already at Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur time. And so it gives food for thought that this year, hopefully, we daven that this plague should go away, that we should find a vaccine, that we should be able to go back to normal, that we shouldn't have so many casualties from COVID, and that all the other fallout is, which David mentioned, economic, and what we mentioned as well as the mental health, and the fallout as in the ripple effect in other services, should not be as massive as we're expecting it to be. Okay, David, can you just? I think when you got rid of it, it got smaller. Can you just push on the plus again to make it slightly bigger again?
Here we are.
Thank you. So they get enkitzel shosecha. So that's why I would say that you could say for yourself at home. Then you get to kedusha, which we will not be saying. Obviously you won't be saying at home. The other thing that people will say to themselves also, keep going, is v'chol ma'aminim. You get to that. Here v'chol ma'aminim. A lot of people like v'chol ma'aminim. It always gives you a good.
It sounds the tunes at least a little bit more upbeat after on the Sanataka.
Yeah, they get a little bit. Well, it depends which shul you go to, but yeah, this gets then the Sanataka is the most intense bit, and then the Chol Ma'aminim. A lot of people like to have a sing song. Chol Ma'aminim, sings it, or Adam Kaplan sings it for different tune. Then Adam Kaplan sings it to Shionach. Chol Ma'aminim Shu Chaimekayam. So however you want to sing it at home, but I think one of the things that I would say to you is, if you're davening at home and you're not davening in shul, you might feel, oh, it's silly. Why should I sing? But it really, really adds to your davening. If you don't feel that you don't have anything to be embarrassed about, you don't have anything to be embarrassed about singing on Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is that's part of it. What one of the people I spoke to in shul said to me, one of the things that he's going to be missing the most at Rosh Hashanah davening is the singing. And he said, if there's no singing in shul, it takes away the whole atmosphere. It takes away everything that Rosh Hashanah feeling gets taken away by all those tunes missing, or by the community not being able to really help out with this. So that's your v'chol ma'aminim. And then if you go through it, I think the rest of it you could probably scroll through rather quickly. Yeah, because then this is just the repetition of the Amida. You'll read about all the bits in the repetition Amida, the Aleinu Shabeach. The blowing of the shofar 3 times over there. Tkiya shvarim shua tkiya. Keep going, keep going. Yeah, this is just what you said in the silent Shema Esrei comes up over here. There is the blessing of the Kohanim, again, only to be done in a minyan, so you're going to miss out on that. Keep going, keep going. And that's it, the full Kaddish. These are the last blasts of the shofar. Again, we're not really going to be doing those. Then there's Aleinu, and that leaves us more or less
lunch. Okay.
I think maybe what we'll do also, I think the other thing that I'd like to do is maybe explain to people, there will be a video coming up. I think I'd like to explain to people also about the services that will be happening in shul so that people understand and know what to expect. Soon you'll be getting a paper from the shul which will show you which service you've been booked into. As much as possible, we have tried to accommodate everybody. I don't know if we could have literally accommodated everybody with the service that they want to. And please understand, we are limited to space. We don't have, and we've had extra requests now because there are people that were going to go to London who sadly now, because of the extra stringencies that have been put in place, will not be able to go visit their children. And it's very, very sad because these people, they've been looking forward to Yom Tov with the kids or Yom Tov with the grandchildren. To them is, that makes Yom Tov. And to be at home sitting by yourself, again, that, it creates a tremendous level of sadness, a tremendous level of loneliness. And if you know people like that would appreciate a phone call, again, we have volunteers in the shul that we're willing to call them. I am also willing to call them and let us know so that we can support these people. We can reach out to them and say, if you need any help, we're here for you. But what we're going to be having in shul is most of the services are going to be in the Hilton Suite, and Shachris on Rosh Hashana morning, we will be having 3 services and a standalone shofar blowing. So the first service will be at 7:30. That will be in the Hilton Suite, and that will be a brief service. I mean, it's going to be the entire service, but it's going to be rather quick. I will warn you, it's about 3 hours from beginning to end. And that service is going to be, if anybody wants to allow their spouse to come to another one of the services, you can have one spouse coming to the first service and then the other spouse coming to the second one at 11 o'clock. That service will start with laning, and that service will then have shofar blowing and musaf as well. That 11 o'clock service is actually quite popular amongst the women, and there are many husbands that are coming to the first service and then letting their wife come to the second service, taking in mind also that sadly we cannot have children on the campus. And thinking back that I think we had 150 kids in shul last year, Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah. So to think that we're not going to have any of those children, yes.
The face mask debate. So there is no debate. You will be wearing a face mask, but I'm going to show everybody how to wear it. It's very simple. It should cover both nose and mouth. This is not acceptable. That is not acceptable. This is very acceptable.
You should have these pictures with an X through it. This is not it. And then one with a tick where it goes over your nose and your mouth.
This is also
not acceptable.
No, that has been a problem. So some people have been complaining about that because not everybody. It's difficult. I'm having to wear one of these for work, and a lot of people are. It gets very hot inside these things, and if you wear glasses, they instantly sort of fog up. And
I know that feeling.
Yeah. Now there are some people I think that have medical exemptions as well, so they don't fall into that category. But it's just you need to make sure that you wear
a medical exemption. Please come forward and let us know. I think we need to know about that.
All people.
Okay, and the other thing is please sanitize. There'll be hand sanitizing stations everywhere. I mean, this place is swimming in hand sanitizer. Please sanitize your hands on entry and an exit of the shul. It helps contain things. You come in, you might have something on your hands, you sanitize, you get rid of it. On your way out, you might have touched something whilst you're in shul, you sanitize your hands. Just be safe. And some people will even go out when they go to the toilet or something else, they'll sanitize their hands in the middle of the davening as well. It just makes sense. Let's be sensible about it. Let's all try to contain the virus.
Okay, now.
Ian says, as far as the shul is concerned, they're insisting on face masks by everyone. So I think then you'll have an issue. If you'll have a medical exemption from wearing a face mask, you won't be able to come to daven in shul, because I think the too many people get nervous about it in shul. It's not something that we're going to be able to do.
To police. Okay. There's a practical question here for people who are worried about coming to shul on Rosh Hashana or Yom Kippur. How important is it to daven with a minyan on both days?
Again, it's really, I cannot give the answer to that. Is it important to daven with a minyan? I think it'd be better if you can. But understanding people's anxieties, understanding people's nerves, and figuring out what will be better. I think in a way it might be better than, Clive, if people come on the second day Rosh Hashanah when there's shofar blowing, rather than on the first day Rosh Hashanah, because then you can have it all together. It might make more sense then if you have that. If you don't want to come on both days Rosh Hashanah, I would recommend coming on day 2 where there's shofar blowing and you hear the 100 blasts of shofar, rather than coming on day 1 where there won't be any shofar blowing.
Because strictly speaking, it's an obligation to hear the blast of the shofar.
No, it's not an obligation to hear it with a minyan. You can hear it at home, but I think it's the main mitzvah of the day is actually the shofar blowing. So if you can do the shofar blowing with a minyan and do the mitzvah nicer and better, that's great. I'll also mention, coming back to the face mask, as we said before, the shul will have face masks. If you've forgotten a face mask, don't worry. Come inside and take one of the face masks from the shul, and you'll be able to use those. But please, there's no excuse for not wearing a face mask. Please make sure that you do wear a face mask. Okay?
Okay. I think
that's that. And that's the set. So that's the first service. The second service will be in the main shul. That will start at 8 o'clock. That'll be the service that Chazan Kaplan and I will be at. And then, as we said, there'll be an 11 o'clock service, which will start with laning and there'll be Musaf. And at 12 o'clock on the second day Rosh Hashanah, there will be a standalone service where we will be having shofar blowing outside in the car park. We will not be having a communal tashlich this year, and the reason for that is because we cannot go as a community. The maximum is 6. So that's, we can't go as a community for the tashlich. That's just not going to work. So you have to see. Yeah. So Elena was right. Okay, no, Elena will be said when you repeat Musaf, and people will be bowing to the ground. That's fine, and you should keep the mask on. Well, you have to keep your mask on when bowing to the ground. I don't see why when you bow to the ground you should be able to take your mask off. Again, if you're finding it too difficult, then refrain from bowing down. That's okay. And it's an exemption that comes with. It's an exemption that comes with the. Sorry, that's just my phone trying to get my attention at the same time. That's what I said. An exemption that comes with a medical exemption. So you can't bow down, but make sure that you keep your masks on.
Yeah. And if you can't keep distance and bow down at the same time, then you shouldn't.
Although I think people shouldn't struggle with that, because we have left a lot of space everywhere, both in the main shul and in the Hilton Suite. There's plenty of space. Right. I think we've covered almost everything. Are there any questions before we end?
Let's see if any.
Not covered Yom Kippur, but we've covered Rosh Hashanah quite.
You know what? Just talking about shofar for a second, it is literally the only Jewish musical instrument, isn't it? Really, that has such
massively talented we are.
It is. It's amazing, but it's not used pretty much that I know of in any other culture, and its roots go back all the way to the Akedah, right? That's the first time.
The ram which Avraham Avinu brought up on the Akedah got tangled up in its horns. But we don't read about the blowing of the shofar. The first time we read about the blowing of the shofar actually is by the Jewish harp. That's about David HaMelech, but I don't know if that's a Jewish music instrument as such, or it's just that David HaMelech used to play the harp and he was famous for it. Whereas the shofar is actually this Jewish horn. The first time we read about the shofar is at the giving of the Torah at Har Sinai. And
yes, I am putting the link to the documents we shared. I'm going to put some of them up now again. I'm just going to put them into the. Okay, so that.
David, can I ask you, do these comments, when it goes onto YouTube afterwards, do these comments come onto the YouTube as well, the YouTube feed?
They do, yeah.
Okay, so then you won't have to because otherwise I'll tell you you'd have to repost it again on YouTube.
No, they do, and I'm also gonna send a link now to a file that contains all of it, including the shrubs Machzor guide. It's also got a copy in there of the Simanim. So I'm going to send that to you all again in just a second. Yeah, so that will come up now. Any more questions? So, Rabbi, I think this is probably the last one. Do you know how many we've done so far?
I don't.
Just out of interest, we've done.
I would guess 12.
We've done a total of 15.
You joking?
We kept going. There was a couple of weeks where we gave you a break. We kept going.
I was on holiday.
Well, yeah. So we had that rather unfortunate incident with the Creek. Clive will put these links on the website. So we had that rather unfortunate incident with Ian, but we also then had that fascinating discussion with Rodney. And the week after, we talked and the youth gang. So here we go. I'm putting the link up to the Dropbox file now. So
just doesn't have you to come on again next Sunday. Are you going to convince Miriam that I shouldn't help her when after Yom Tov to clean up?
I couldn't convince your Miriam or my Miriam that would.
No, Sharon Hood needs to do it.
Oh no, I like Sharon. It'd be a shame if anything happened to her. I don't think she should do that. Yeah. I think we'll give it a break. But what we might do is look at coming back at some point during the week if we can. If there's enough demand to do it between Rosh Hashana and Yom Kippur, I think that would be very.
About Yom Kippur, maybe. Yeah, if there's enough demand. But then I think there'll be break now for like 4 weeks straight, because next week is Rosh Hashanah, the week after is Yom Kippur, the week after is Sukkot, and the week after is Shmini Atzeres and Simchas Torah. So you have 4 weeks in a row where we're not going to have any.
Yeah, so we may do some midweek ones because hey, I don't have a social life, and you only have a social life. That's it. That's
I live here. That's why I'm still here now.
And
what does that mean in Phil's question? Is there any last minor?
I don't know. I've tried to say it to myself in an Irish accent, and it still doesn't make sense. Maybe if Phil can tell us. But it's lovely. We've done 15 of these, and people tune in every week. And a vast amount of people watch it afterwards, both on YouTube and on Facebook. We've had something ridiculous, like the number of hours that people have sat and watched of this particular thing. If you were to watch it 24/7, which obviously you're not going to, but you'd have to watch it for 4 weeks to make up the entire time that everybody has spent watching this. So
that's only on YouTube. That's not all the people that have watched it here as well.
Also on Facebook as well. Yeah. So I mean,
you had live. I mean, there were times we had 100 people. Remember, we had the one with Dr. Crane.
Correct. That was probably one of our most popular ones. So look, it's really good to get the feedback, and it's really good to sort of hear from people that they've been enjoying them. And we will keep them going for as long as people need them, as long as people want them. After Yom Tov, I think the focus obviously will come back to more regular highlight of our Sundays. Okay.
Phil, by the way, Phil, the answer is yes. If last minute you need to book, get in touch with Ian. There might still be some space, but the last minute bookings might not get last minute booking might not get where you want to be. You might just have to put in the service that has the space for you.
But what I would say is that after Yom Tov and after we've got all the kind of the festivities out of the way and the focus on Yom Tov away from these shows, if people have got more challenging topics, so for instance, the topic that came up, the most popular one with the organ donation, that was one that was something that was suggested by, I think, Elliot Simons. For a long time, so that we were aware that there are certain more difficult topics that people need addressing, and that sometimes we don't get a chance to address in full. It's not a drasha, but it does have serious content. So please email us, let us know, send us a message. We're always looking for new inspiration, new topics.
Absolutely.
Okay. Ian saying, please email me. Also email the shul office if you've got
lastminutebookings.com.
any last minute bookings. Maybe I'll sell some tickets like a tout outside the venue on the
Two
day.
next to the rabbi. We got two next to the rabbi here. Come on, get your two next to the rabbi.
So on that note, it leaves me just to wish you all a very, very good Yom Tov. May this year, Shana Tova to everybody. May this year bring only health, most importantly, happiness and prosperity to everybody. This year has highlighted for me personally, but also for a lot of us, how much our shul is capable of coming together and showing its true strengths. And I know there are some people that will always have something to say in terms of negatives. We've all got things that we can improve on, but we are a shul that is trying very, very hard at the moment to reach out, make everybody feel a part of our gang, part of our family. And if there's anybody you know that needs contact in any form, please reach out and let us know. Rabbi, we'll talk again, I'm sure.
I hope so.
But a good Yom Tov to you too.
Good Yom Tov. Look forward. And gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, actually, if you have time at 2:00, on Tuesday there will be the tea afternoon, and I'll be speaking there with a Yom Tov message for those of you who. There will also be a Rosh Hashana message going on, a video as well, and I hope there's to be a few more videos before Yom Tov. I think the videos have had quite some good feedback as well. Thank you all for all your support. Thank you for joining us on Sunday nights. It's amazing to see how many people are willing to come out and to watch David and I have a conversation on a natter for over an hour. So please keep coming. Keep coming to shul. Keep coming and joining us. And we wish you all Shana Tova, a year of only goodness.
What is Tuesday night?
Not Tuesday night. Tuesday.
No, Tuesday afternoon. Tuesday afternoon. Yeah, on the usual Zoom link.
Usual Zoom. All right, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.